Welcome to my home park. Busch Gardens Tampa is located in Florida, and I have been there many times since I was a child. I'm going to do an overview of this park to help you make a decision on whether you or your family should go here. So, grab yourself a huge bucket of popcorn and enjoy the show. This whole review was shot on 16mm film. The reason I shot this on film is because I want to be the next Christopher Nolan. One final thing I would like to mention is that I am not sponsored by Kodak. This documentary was entirely self-funded. Let's roll. Busch Gardens Tampa originally opened on June 1st, 1959. It was owned by the Anheuser-Busch Company and started out as a brewery. That brewery doesn't exist anymore because its land is now occupied by Iron Gwazi. This is symbolic as it shows how much the park has grown over the years. The Anheuser-Busch Company has sold the park, and through multiple transactions, the park is now in the hands of the SeaWorld Entertainment Company. The big historic attraction for Busch Gardens Tampa is the Serengeti Plains. It is 65 acres and used to have a suspended monorail that traveled over it. The monorail has been scrapped and the station has been repurposed for Cheetah Hunt, a fun family coaster. Access to the Serengeti Plains can be done by train, where you will come upon many varieties of animals. By the way, the train is a great transportation method, as Busch Gardens Tampa is huge. While the Serengeti Plain is 65 acres, the entire size of the park is 335 acres. According to Busch Gardens, they have over 12,000 animals, which covers over 200 different species. Let's take a moment and watch some shots of these amazing animals. One area that I like in particular is Lorry Landing. It is a place where you can get up close and experience a couple of different bird species. Some of them will be in cages, but there is the main atrium where birds will be flying about and may land on your shoulder. In fact, you can purchase nectar in cups, which makes the birds have a higher percent chance of landing on your arms to feed. The price of the nectar is expensive, but I think it's worth the experience. It is fun to see rainbow lorikeets feed off of your cup, but keep in mind that these birds are incredibly noisy. Another favorite area of mine is the Walkabout Way. It contains a lot of kangaroos. Like the Lorry Landing, you can buy feed for them, but it's not necessary. Sometimes the kangaroos will get up close to the fence and allow you to pet them. The area also does have other mammal species and a small lake in the middle. You can find a couple of bird species swimming around in this lake. In addition to the animals, this park is rapidly becoming a thrill destination. Busch Gardens has over 10 roller coasters and 2 water rides. The 2 water rides are the Stanley Falls Flume and the Congo River Rapids. Stanley Falls Flume will not get you that wet, but nonetheless, it is a fun log flume ride with a couple of drops. Congo River Rapids, on the other hand, can potentially get you very wet. There are a couple of waterfalls on the ride that coat around half of the rapid in water. This means that you could be either mildly wet or soaked when you exit out of this ride. The non-riders can have a little bit of fun too, as there are kiosks where they can pay to spray water at the rapids. The roller coaster collection of this park is well-rounded. If you are a younger rider, you can choose between the likes of Scorpion, Sand Serpent, Cheetah Hunt, Air Grover, and technically Iron Gwazi due to its minimum height requirement of 48 inches. Fun fact, Sand Serpent used to be from Busch Gardens Williamsburg, the sister park of Busch Gardens Tampa. While it was there, it was originally called Wild Izzy and then later changed to Wild Mouse. When it got here, it was called Cheetah Chase, but later changed to Sand Serpent to prevent confusion with Cheetah Hunt. What a history. But alas, Sand Serpent is about to go away. It is being removed in order for a new coaster to be built called Phoenix Rising, which looks awesome. Funny enough, I thought that Scorpion was the coaster that was going to be replaced first for a Rocky Mountain Construction Raptor coaster model. But anyways, I'm happy that we're getting Phoenix Rising instead. Rest in peace, Sand Serpent. Scorpion is an Anton Schwarzkopf coaster that was built in 1980. It was the second coaster built in the park and has a single vertical loop. Despite its small size, the intensity of this ride is quite aggressive. It exerts a lot of G-forces on the rider, so be prepared when riding it. Cobra's Curse is a unique ride. It takes riders up an elevator and proceeds to drop riders like normal. However, there is a part of the ride that flips the coaster backwards. To top it off, Cobra's Curse is a steel spinning coaster, which means that it will have the coaster car spin freely. This happens at the final part of the ride, and it's quite fun. Another unique part of this ride is its conveyor belt platform. Riders can board the coaster while it is slowly advancing forward. Cheetah Hunt is a great family ride. Not as intense as Scorpion, but more intense than Cobra's Curse. It has 3 LSM launches and 1 inversion, a heartline roll. The drops are not too tall, and it has a gentle sweeping motion when transversing throughout most of the layout. My advice when entering Busch Gardens is to go to this ride first. It is a fan favorite of the park, and the line will get crowded if you do not go here first. I've been pretty lucky, as I am able to go to Busch Gardens on weekdays when people are back in school. I've actually been able to ride Cheetah Hunt 20 times in a row in the span of an hour. Here is Air Grover. It is a coaster for the kids. Next! If you are an older rider, you will be much more engaged with the likes of SheiKra, Kumba, and Montu. These 3 rides are classic Bolliger and Mabillard coasters that represent the Swiss company at its peak. By the way, Switzerland is a country of great craftsmanship. This entire film was made on a Bolex, a 1956 model. All 3 of these rides have a minimum height requirement of 54 inches, and they are characterized by their loud B&M roar. Kumba is a traditional sit-down coaster, Montu is inverted, and SheiKra is a floorless dive coaster. For some reason, Kumba is a little bit more shaky than Montu and SheiKra. The reason is because it has developed what is called B&M rattling. Kumba is the oldest coaster of the 3, which is reasonable to explain why it rattles more than its siblings. SheiKra is a bit smoother than Kumba. Cool thing about its loading procedure, when the coaster train is about to depart, the floor of the coaster retracts and allows the train to proceed. It's a great ride, as it contains 1 drop that is 90 degrees and is 200 feet tall. The second drop is almost 90 degrees and a little bit shorter. The caveat is that after that drop, SheiKra makes a splashdown. The splashdown does not make the riders wet, but it sure makes the standbyers soaked. Montu used to be my favorite coaster of the park until Iron Gwazi came along. Like mentioned before, it is an inverted coaster and contains 7 inversions. The loading procedure is similar to SheiKra, where the loading platforms retract when the coaster car is about to depart. Montu is intense, but not like the Scorpion way. It exerts a lot of G-forces, but in a buttery smooth fashion. This makes Montu very re-rideable for me, unlike Kumba's rattle. I know that I mentioned that Iron Gwazi can be considered for younger riders, but it packs a serious punch. I mentioned that Rocky Mountain Construction earlier. Well, this is their only coaster in the park. It is technically taller than SheiKra, at 206 feet tall, and has a steeper drop of 91 degrees. On top of that, it has inversions and airtime moments that are out of this world. Another ride that does the same is Tigris. Tigris is a Skyrocket 2 model of roller coasters, which feature LSM launches and propels riders back and forth in a loop. This is a pretty intense model of roller coaster, definitely not for the lighthearted. Personally, this coaster makes me feel nauseous compared to the other coasters in the park. The first roller coaster that opened here was Python in 1976. It closed in 2006 and paved way for Jungala, which is like a kids section of the park. When I was filming, this area of the park was closed, so I was not able to get any footage. There is another kids area in this park that is themed to Sesame Street characters. If you have little kids and Sesame Street fans, this is the place for you. If you are not a thrill seeker, Busch Gardens Tampa has shows for people to enjoy. One of the shows I managed to film was Christmas on Ice. It takes place on the Moroccan Theater, conveniently located close to the park entrance, where you will find ice skaters perform on a special rink inside of the theater. This event only takes place during Christmas time, where at other times of the year, Broadway-styled shows are performed. Another show area I recommend is at the Dragonfire Grill. Here, you can eat and watch performers play a show. In both of these places, there is AC. Awesome. This park usually closes early for most of the year, but at certain times during summer, and especially winter, the park can open later. Busch Gardens Christmas Town is a special treat. Not only are you able to ride the attractions during nighttime, Busch Gardens also offers special decorations of Christmas lights. They also offer special Christmas shows and performances. Remember the Dragonfire Grill performance I mentioned earlier? That was done during the Christmas time, where there are 3 actors playing the 3 kings that gave gifts to Jesus. To close out the night, Busch Gardens will perform a fireworks show at these times. Does Busch Gardens Tampa have any drawbacks? Yes, it has a couple. The big one I can think of is that the park does not have any indoor rides. This makes the park a nightmare during the summertime. In Florida, it rains a lot in the summer, which causes Busch Gardens to shut down most of their attractions. The shows are still available, but it's not the same as the rides being open. Even if there is no rain, the park can be unbearably hot during the summertime. There's very little places that have any AC. And no, having fans that spray water at you is not enough. Another flaw I can think of is the food being atrocious. It is expensive and not very good at all. In fact, I didn't bother wasting any film recording it. You can get foods at the Serengeti Overlook, Dragonfire Grill, or the Zambia Smokehouse. If you can, I recommend the restaurants that are located outside of the park. A notable restaurant is Chick-fil-A, not the one located in the park. There is a great Chick-fil-A located on Fowler Avenue. The lines are long here, but for very good reason. It's one of the best Chick-fil-A's I've ever had. Definitely recommend getting a meal here. One final flaw I have observed is that Busch Gardens closes off so many of their rides. There are a couple more rides I wanted to show in this documentary, but they weren't open. For that reason, I'm probably going to make a sequel to this movie in the future. But for guests that are only staying here for a couple of days, it's frustrating to see rides that you wanted to try be closed off for a couple of months. Regardless of these issues, Busch Gardens Tampa is a great place to visit. The park is beautiful, with tons of great scenery and animals. I never felt that the animals were cramped while I was visiting here. The shows are wonderful, and the rides are amazing. Definitely a recommended place to come with your family to spend a day. This year, 2023 marks the 100th anniversary for 16mm film. Thanks for watching my overview of Busch Gardens Tampa on this historic format. As long as Roller Vision Studios is around, we will do our best to keep Kodak alive.